This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, great. All right, so welcome everybody to our new series, Just YA Author Talks. And we're going to be sharing really brief interviews where you get to meet all the authors who contributed to this open educational resource, Just YA. And I love this time that we get to hear the voice of the authors and some of the inspiration behind the pieces that they wrote. So I'm Sarah Donovan. I'm the editor of the book or the collection. And I'm here, so grateful to be here with Melissa. So let's just start it off. Melissa, can you just introduce a little bit about yourself, your profession, your background?
Well, I'm Melissa Heaton, and this is my 25th year of teaching English and language arts. I've taught 6th grade English all the way up to 9th, and I'm currently teaching 8th grade English at Mapleton Junior High School in Nebo School District.
And tell us a little bit about how did you become involved with this Just YA project?
All right, so let's try and make a long story short. I am a member of the Central Utah Writing Project, which is a chapter of the National Writing Project. And on occasion, the directors of the Central Utah Writing Project will send us emails of possible ways to share our writing and to get published. And I got an email about your project, and I loved the idea of having a compilation, an anthology of a bunch of different poems and stories and articles. That's really hard as a teacher to find. So I looked through things that I had written, and I thought maybe something I had written could possibly be put into that, and that's how it all happened.
Love it. Love hearing those connections. What sort of area of like expertise or interest, what kind of things do you like to write, or what topics are you interested in writing about?
I really gravitate toward poetry. I've kind of always been that way. I love sensory details and imagery. I love expressing myself that way. And so whenever I do a poetry unit in my class, that's always my favorite thing to teach. But when my students write, I write. When they read, I read. So I'm always writing, and I'm actually always sharing my writing with them. So that's just something, since attending the Central Utah Writing Project, I've really tried to adopt.
Thank you so much. You know, I don't know how many of the authors in our anthology have associations with the National Writing Project. Do you mind just saying a little bit about like what that is in case a teacher's listening and they're like, I don't know anything about Writing Project. Can you give us a little background?
The National Writing Project, and specifically the Central Utah Writing Project, has changed my way of thinking as a teacher. You know that adage that they say, those who can do, those who can't teach. I hated that. I always hated that. But attending the Central Utah Writing Project, they have the belief that teachers should be teaching writing, but they also should be writing themselves. And it's not your typical professional development. It's a great opportunity for you to find your own voice as a writer again. For so many years, I didn't see myself as a writer, even though I taught writing. And so it was just a great opportunity for me to be able to once again become the expert in my class on writing, because I'm actually writing. So the writing project has really changed my view and has given me the courage to share what I've written, not just with my students, but also with other people.
And I'm so glad. I'm so glad because you that brought you to us. And you mentioned my voice, and I think that's like the central beautiful title of your poem that is published in Just YA. So can you give us a little introduction to the piece?
Sure.
And then read it for us?
Sure. So I attended the Summer Institute of the Central Utah Writing Project in 2010. And there was a presenter. His name is Tom Romano. And for those people who don't know Tom Romano, he's a very well-known educator in the English language arts teaching world. He's just really a phenomenal educator, and his ideas are just wonderful. So he was a presenter that day, and he had us write about our voice and what our voice sounds like in our writing. And so I wrote a couple of paragraphs about how I saw my voice. Fast forward 9 years, and I became a facilitator for a 1-week institute through the Central Utah Writing Project. And we ask the participants to write something that is either professional or personal. And so I decided to go through some of the things that I had written years ago, and I stumbled upon these paragraphs that I had written and thought, you know what, I'm going to try and polish this. Well, as I was polishing it, I was kind of trying to turn it into like a free verse type poem, and it just wasn't working. And then one of my close friends, Chris Crow, who is a professor at Brigham Young University and a well-known young adult author, he gave me some advice, and he said that one way he can kind of get out of writer's block is if he writes haikus. So, and if people aren't aware, Chris Crow wrote a whole young adult novel in haiku. The whole novels are haikus. So I took his advice and I started writing, and the words came together so much better in a haiku chain. And so that's how my poem came to be.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think the haiku chain is also a concept where we're like, not teachers don't always think about that as how together it can tell another story or expand on each image, which is a really beautiful concept, I think, to think about the chain of haiku, which I love. I love. And I think it's going to be a great mentor text for teachers, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's hear you read it.
Okay. My voice. My voice is timid, shrinking from criticism, seeking acceptance, hiding under the covers of imperfection, longing to wake up. There are moments when I come to myself and rise with clear perspective. My slumbering voice comes alive. I'm empowered, uninhibited. My true self stands tall, shaking off the dust of doubt, honest, bold, fearless. My words are enough. Letting go, my voice takes flight. Finally, I'm me.
Oh, so beautiful, Melissa.
Thank you.
When you read this, what, like now, after having written it a while ago, like what stands out to you when you reread it?
Well, I see a transformation of someone who was really insecure about sharing my thoughts and ideas and my writing, not just, you know, my students, but also in general, right? And it took a lot of courage for me even just to be brave enough to share what I wrote with my students and let myself be vulnerable and not just show them the writing that was polished, but also the writing that wasn't and my progression through there. And so this is just a progression of just me gaining more confidence and being willing to put myself out there. And I actually share this poem with my students. And I show them the process I went through to write it. And to help them see my vulnerability, I've actually seen my students being more willing to share because I'm willing to share. And they realize that your voice doesn't necessarily have to be perfect. Your voice is important regardless of what exact words you use or how polished everything is. Your voice is important. Your words are important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I think I'm so appreciate hearing like your story and how you use the poem in class. And I think, you know, when I just read this as just a human being, as a person, as a girl, as a woman, you know, I think about whispers of doubt all the time, and that how it keeps my voice quiet, or it creates like a sense of fear. And so this like shaking off the dust of doubt is just a beautiful phrase, to shake off that dust of doubt. I can almost see that as being like a little poster on the wall, you know, remind people, shake off that dust of doubt. And of course, we love the alliteration when we can point that out in our own poems too.
Right.
And this end
I
of
actually, to jump in there really quick too, I actually had my students help me revise my poem. They gave me some suggestions of how to improve it, what they liked and what they didn't like. So that was kind of cool.
yeah, well, yes, I think from a listener, a reader's perspective, like the parts that might make them wonder or that they want something more from. And I think also as a poet and as a writer, we can say, I like that suggestion, or no, thank you. I like how, like, we can reject those too.
Yeah.
But it's so beautiful, and I'm so glad that it is in this book and that it's here in paperback, but it's also free for teachers on the Just YA website at Oklahoma State, which is easy to search up too. What do you think about that? About the fact that this is like an open education resource?
I love it. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to contribute, was because I just know from experience that it's very hard for teachers to find texts and mentor texts to teach writing and reading, and texts that are relevant and current and high interest. And oftentimes when you find something like that, you don't have the money to purchase what you need. And so it's what a wonderful resource for teachers to be able to have this, and have a digital copy to be able to use with their students. What a great opportunity you've given for all of us to be able to use. So I highly recommend teachers utilizing the resources that you've been so great to put together for all of us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for contributing to it and for sharing your writing with the students, and just thinking about the ways that teachers can use the poems in the book, but also as a mentor text to do the same writing and to write with and alongside their students. I think you have given us lots to think about today with sharing this poem.
Thank you.
Have any kind of any writing that you're working on right now, or how do you know where to go next with your writing life?
Well, I'm always writing. When I have my students write, I write. Oftentimes, when they're sitting at their computers or when they're sitting at their desks writing, I will have my writing projected on the screen, so they can see what I'm doing, and they can see that writing's hard. It's not perfect. And I want them to learn that. And anyway, so I want them to see the transformation I have to go through to write something, and it allows them to. So that I'm always writing and I'm always sharing what I write. I don't necessarily right now have a project I'm working on per se, but because I do write a lot, I'm sure an opportunity will present itself where I will be able to go through something I've written and maybe polish it and share it, just like I did with your anthology.
I love that. I love that. There also, I don't know if you're aware of the Ethical ELA Open Write. Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So the third Saturday of every month, which is going to start this Saturday, if you go to ethicalela.com, we have a new poetry prompt for 5 days. So it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and teachers write poetry. And we write like a flash draft of the poem and we publish it, and then you have a bunch of teachers reading it and saying nice things to you. And then you get to say nice things to other teachers. So a lot of those poems end up into anthologies or end up into our own books. So some teachers have been writing in this open write for like several years now, and now have this big collection that they're turning into some anthologies.
Oh, I love that.
Maybe you will join us.
I will have to do that for sure. You'll have to send me the link. I would love to do that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Melissa, and sharing your poem and your voice with us as teachers, and especially contributing it to the Just YA anthology. So I'm just want to remind everyone that you can get this in paperback anywhere books are sold, and then online at the Oklahoma State Just YA, and the link is going to be in the description below. So please join us tomorrow, where you'll get to meet another author, and let us know if you use any of these resources in your classroom. We'd love to hear how it's going. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yay.